The 1 Year Bible, NRSV, Catholic Edition.
October 10th. Jeremiah chapter 49. Judgment on the Ammonites. Concerning the Ammonites, thus says Yahweh, has Israel no sons? Has he no heir? Why has Melcom dispossessed Gad, and his people settled in its towns? Therefore the time is surely coming, says Yahweh, when I will sound the battle alarm against Rabbah of the Ammonites. It shall become a desolate mound, and its villages shall be burned with fire. Then Israel shall dispossess those who dispossessed him, says Yahweh. Wail, O Heshbon, for Ai is laid waste. Cry out, O daughters of Rabbah. Put on sackcloth, lament, and slash yourselves with whips. For Melcom shall go into exile with his priests and his attendants. Why do you boast in your strength? Your strength is ebbing, O faithless daughter. You trusted in your treasures, saying, who will attack me? So I am going to bring terror upon you, says Yahweh of hosts, from all your neighbors, and you will be scattered, each of you headlong, with no one to gather the fugitives. But then afterwards I will restore the fortunes of the Ammonites, says Yahweh. Judgment on Edom. Concerning Edom, thus says Yahweh of hosts, is there no longer wisdom in Teman? Has counsel perished from the prudent? Has their wisdom vanished? Flee, turn back, get down low, inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time when I punish him. If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave gleanings? If thieves came by night, even they would pillage only what they wanted. But as for me, I have stripped Esau bare. I have uncovered his hiding places, and he is not able to conceal himself. His offspring are destroyed, his kinsfolk and his neighbor, and he is no more. Leave your orphans, I will keep them alive, and let your widows trust in me. For thus says Yahweh, if those who do not deserve to drink the cup still have to drink it, shall you be the one to go unpunished? You shall not go unpunished, you must drink it. For by myself I have sworn, says Yahweh, that Basra shall become an object of horror and ridicule, a waste and an object of cursing, and all her towns shall be perpetual wastes. I have heard tidings from Yahweh, and a messenger has been sent among the nations. Gather yourselves together and come against her, and rise up for battle, for I will make you least among the nations, despised by humankind. The terror you inspire and the pride of your heart have deceived you, you who live in the clefts of the rock and who hold the height of the hill. Although you make your nest as high as the eagles, from there I will bring you down, says Yahweh. Edom shall become an object of horror. Everyone who passes by it will be horrified and will hiss because of all of its disasters. As when Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors were overthrown, says Yahweh, no one shall live there, nor shall anyone settle in it. Like a lion coming up from the thickets of the Jordan against perennial pasture, I will suddenly chase Edom away from it, and I will appoint over it whomever I choose. For who is like me? Who can summon me? Who is the shepherd who can stand before me? Therefore, hear the plan that Yahweh has made against Edom and the purposes that he has formed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely little ones of the flock shall be dragged away. Surely their folds shall be appalled at their fate. At the sound of their fall, the earth shall tremble. The sound of their cry shall be heard at the Red Sea. Look, he shall mount up and swoop down like an eagle and spread his wings against Basra. And the heart of the warriors of Edom in that day shall be like the heart of a woman in labor. Judgment on Damascus. Concerning Damascus, Hamath and Arpad are confounded, for they have heard bad news. They melt in fear. They are troubled like the sea that cannot be quiet. Damascus becomes feeble. She turned to flee, and panic seized her. Anguish and sorrows have taken hold of her as of a woman in labor. How the famous city is forsaken, the joyful town. Therefore her young men shall fall in her squares, and all her soldiers shall be destroyed in that day, says Yahweh of hosts. And I will kindle a fire at the wall of Damascus, and it shall devour the strongholds of Ben-Hadad. Judgment on Kedar and Hazor. Concerning Kedar and the kingdom of Hazor that King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon defeated. Thus says Yahweh, rise up, advance against Kedar. Destroy the people of the east. Take their tents and their flocks, their curtains and all their goods. Carry off their camels for yourselves, and a cry shall go up. Terror is all around. Flee, wander far away, hide in deep places, O inhabitants of Hazor, says Yahweh. For King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has made a plan against you and formed a purpose against you. Rise up, advance against a nation at ease that lives secure, says Yahweh, that has no gates or bars, that lives alone. Their camels shall become booty, their herds of cattle a spoil. I will scatter to every wind those who have shaven temples, and I will bring calamity against them from every side, says Yahweh. Hazor shall become a lair of jackals, an everlasting waste. No one shall live there, nor shall anyone settle in it. Judgment on Elam. The word of Yahweh that came to the prophet Jeremiah concerning Elam at the beginning of the reign of King Zedekiah of Judah. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, I am going to break the bow of Elam, the mainstay of their might, and I will bring upon Elam the four winds from the four quarters of heaven. And I will scatter them, all these winds, and there shall be no nation to which the exiles from Elam shall not come. I will terrify Elam before their enemies and before those who seek their life. I will bring disaster upon them, my fierce anger, says Yahweh. I will send the sword after them until I have consumed them. And I will set my throne in Elam and destroy their kings and officials, says Yahweh. But in the latter days I will restore the fortunes of Elam, says Yahweh. Jeremiah chapter 50. Judgment on Babylon. The word that Yahweh spoke concerning Babylon, concerning the land of the Chaldeans, by the prophet Jeremiah. Declare among the nations and proclaim, set up a banner and proclaim, do not conceal it. Say, Babylon is taken, Baal is put to shame, Merodach is dismayed. Her images are put to shame, her idols are dismayed. For out of the north a nation has come up against her. It shall make her land a desolation, and no one shall live in it. Both human beings and animals shall flee away. And in those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the people of Israel shall come, they and the people of Judah together. They shall come weeping as they seek Yahweh their God. They shall ask the way to Zion with faces turned toward it, and they shall come and join themselves to Yahweh by an everlasting covenant that will never be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have led them astray, turning them away on the mountains. From mountain to hill they have gone. They have forgotten their fold. All who found them have devoured them, and their enemies have said, we are not guilty, because they have sinned against Yahweh, the true pasture, Yahweh, the hope of their ancestors. Flee from Babylon and go out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be like male goats leading the flock. For I'm going to stir up and bring against Babylon a company of great nations from the land of the north, and they shall array themselves against her. From there she shall be taken. Their arrows are like the arrows of a skilled warrior who does not return empty-handed. Chaldea shall be plundered. All who plunder her shall be sated, says Yahweh. Though you rejoice, though you exult, O plunderers of my heritage, though you frisk about like a heifer on the grass and neigh like stallions, your mother shall be utterly shamed, and she who bore you shall be disgraced. Lo, she shall be the last of the nations, a wilderness, dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of Yahweh she shall not be inhabited, but shall become an utter desolation. Everyone who passes by Babylon shall be appalled and hiss because of all of her wounds. Take up your positions around Babylon, all you that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against Yahweh. Raise a shout against her from all sides. She has surrendered, her bulwark have fallen, her walls are thrown down. For this is the vengeance of Yahweh. Take vengeance on her, do to her as she has done. Cut off from Babylon the sower and the wielder of the sickle in the time of harvest. Because of the destroying sword, all of them shall return to their own people, and all of them shall flee to their own land. Israel is a hunted sheep driven away by lions. First the king of Assyria devoured it, and now at the end, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has gnawed its bones. Therefore, thus says Yahweh of hosts, the God of Israel, I'm going to punish the king of Babylon and his land as I punished the king of Assyria. I will restore Israel to its pasture, and it shall feed on Carmel and in Bashan, and on the hills of Ephraim, and in Gilead its hunger shall be satisfied. In those days and at that time, says Yahweh, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought, and there shall be none, and the sins of Judah, and none shall be found, for I will pardon the remnant that I have spared. So go up to the land of Merathaim, go up against her, and attack the inhabitants of Pekod, and utterly destroy the last of them, says Yahweh. Do all that I have commanded you. The noise of battle is in the land, and great destruction. How the hammer of the whole earth is cut down and broken. How Babylon has become a horror among the nations. You set a snare for yourself, and you were caught, O Babylon, but you didn't know it. You were discovered and seized because you challenged Yahweh. Yahweh has opened his armory and brought out the weapons of his wrath. For Yahweh, the God of hosts, has a task to do in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her from every quarter. Open her granaries. Pile her up like a heap of grains and destroy her utterly. Let nothing be left of her. Kill all of her bulls. Let them go down to the slaughter. Alas, for them their day has come, the time of their punishment. Listen, fugitives and refugees from the land of Babylon are coming to declare in Zion the vengeance of Yahweh our God, vengeance for his temple. Summon archers against Babylon, all who bend the bow. Encamp all around her, let no one escape. Repay her according to her deeds, just as she has done, you do to her. For she has arrogantly defied Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel. Therefore her young men shall fall in her squares, and all her soldiers shall be destroyed on that day, says Yahweh. I am against you, O arrogant one, says Yahweh, for your day has come, the time when I will punish you. The arrogant one shall stumble and fall with no one to raise him up, and I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it will devour everything around him. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the people of Israel are oppressed, and so too are the people of Judah. All their captors have held them fast and refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Yahweh of hosts is his name. He will surely plead their cause, that he may give rest on the earth, but unrest to the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword against the Chaldeans, says Yahweh, and against the inhabitants of Babylon, and against her officials and her sages. A sword against the diviners, so that they may become fools. A sword against her warriors, so that they may be destroyed. A sword against her horses, and against her chariots, and against all the foreign troops in her midst, so that they may become women. A sword against all her treasures, that they may be plundered. A drought against her waters, that they may be dried up. For it is a land of images, and they go mad over idols. Therefore, wild animals shall live with hyenas in Babylon, and ostriches shall inhabit her. She shall never again be peopled or inhabited for all generations. As when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors, says Yahweh, no one shall live there, nor shall anyone settle in her. Look, a people is coming from the north. A mighty nation and many kings are stirring from the farthest parts of the earth. They wield bow and spear. They are cruel and have no mercy. The sound of them is like the roaring seas. They ride upon horses, set in array as a warrior for battle against you, O daughter Babylon. The king of Babylon heard news of them, and his hand fell helpless. Anguish seized him, pain like that of a woman in labor. Like a lion coming up from the thickets of the Jordan against a perennial pasture, I will suddenly chase them away from her, and I will appoint over her whomever I choose. For who is like me? Who can summon me? Who is the shepherd who can stand before me? Therefore, hear the plan that Yahweh has made against Babylon and the purposes that he has formed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the little ones of the flock shall be dragged away. Surely their folds shall be appalled at their fate. At the sound of the capture of Babylon, the earth shall tremble, and her cry shall be heard among the nations. Wisdom chapter 4. Better than this is childlessness with virtue. For in the memory of virtue is immortality, because it is known both by God and by mortals. When it is present, people imitate it, and they long for it when it has gone. Throughout all time it marches, crowned in triumph, victor in the contest for prizes that are undefiled. But the prolific brood of the ungodly will be of no use, and none of their illegitimate seedlings will strike a deep root or take a firm hold. For even if they put forth boughs for a while, standing insecurely they will be shaken by the wind, and by the violence of the winds they will be uprooted. The branches will be broken off before they come to maturity, and their fruit will be useless, not ripe enough to eat, and good for nothing. For children born of unlawful unions are witnesses of evil against their parents when God examines them. But the righteous, though they die early, will be at rest. For old age is not honored for length of time or measured by number of years, but understanding is gray hair for anyone, and a blameless life is ripe old age. There were some who pleased God and were loved by him, and while living among sinners were taken up. They were caught up so that evil might not change their understanding or guile deceive their souls. For the fascination of wickedness obscures what is good, and roving desire perverts the innocent mind. Being perfected in a short time, they fulfilled long years, for their souls were pleasing to Yahweh. Therefore he took them quickly from the midst of the wickedness. Yet the people saw and did not understand or take such a thing to heart, that God's grace and mercy are with his elect, and that he watches over his holy ones. The triumph of the righteous. The righteous who have died will condemn the ungodly who are living, and youth that is quickly perfected will condemn the prolonged old age of the unrighteous. For they will see the end of the wise, and they won't understand what the Lord purposed for them and for what he kept them safe. But the unrighteous will see and will have contempt for them, but the Lord will laugh them to scorn. After this they will become dishonored corpses and an outrage amongst the dead forever, because he will dash them speechless to the ground and shake them from the foundations. They will be left utterly dry and barren, and they will suffer anguish, and the memory of them will perish. The final judgment. They will come with dread when their sins are reckoned up, and their lawless deeds will convict them to their face. Colossians chapter 2. For I want you to know how much I'm struggling for you and for those in Laodicea, and for all those who have not seen me face to face. I want their hearts to be encouraged and united in love, so that they may have all the riches of assured understanding and have the knowledge of God's mystery, that is, Christ himself, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. I am saying this so that no one may deceive you with plausible arguments. For though I am absent in body, yet I am with you in spirit, and I rejoice to see your morale and the firmness of your faith in Christ. Fullness of life in Christ. As you therefore have received Christ Jesus the Lord, continue to live your lives in him, rooted and built up in him and established in the faith, just as you were taught, abounding in thanksgiving. See to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the universe, and not according to Christ. For in him the whole fullness of deity dwells bodily, and you have come to fullness in him who is the head over every ruler and authority. And in him also you were circumcised with a spiritual circumcision, by putting off the body of the flesh in the circumcision of Christ. When you were buried with him in baptism, you were also raised with him through faith in the power of God who raised him from the dead. And when you were dead in the trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, God made you alive together with him when he forgave all of us our trespasses, erasing the record that stood against us with its legal demands. And he set this aside, nailing it to the cross. He disarmed the rulers and authorities, and he made a public example of them, triumphing over them in it. Therefore, do not let anyone condemn you in matters of food and drink, or the observing of festivals, new moons, or Sabbaths. These are only a shadow of what is to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. So don't let anyone disqualify you, insisting on self-abasement and worship of angels, dwelling on visions, puffed up without cause by a human way of thinking, and not holding fast to the head, from whom the whole body, nourished and held together by its ligaments and sinews, grows with a growth that is from God. Warning against false teachers. If with Christ you died in the elemental spirits of the universe, why then do you live as if you still belong to the world? Why do you submit to regulations such as do not handle, do not taste, do not touch? All these regulations refer to things that perish with use. They are simply human commands and teachings. These indeed have an appearance of wisdom in promoting self-imposed piety, humility, and severe treatment of the body, but they are of no value in checking self-indulgence.
Thanks for joining us for today's reading of the One Year Bible. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button and subscribe to the Flame Keepers YouTube channel. Also, let us know your thoughts about today's reading by leaving us a comment below.